Heyaho na I awam ilmoyap apo, eslapait ainam oama. My name is Turquoise Shanoa Velarde, and I am the Indigenous Outreach Coordinator for UNM Taos. The Continental Divide National Scenic Trail is 3,100 miles long, designated by Congress in 1978. The trail connects communities, cultures, and landscapes along the major watershed of the North American continent. The lands along the CDT are the homelands and waters of Indigenous peoples, including the people of Taos Pueblo, who have lived with, cared for, and been guided by these lands since the beginning of time. Their voices and wisdom invite you to see the trail as a living thread, learning about enduring relationships between the first peoples of this land and the sacred responsibilities and challenges that come with caring for them.
Hiyaho na ay awam pulkukila ya sapait ay na awam na ta awam yan tu yuna mana okhit taime yuna hina anatia wa I mamat awen na keho tulima na ta awam. I am currently the Taos Pueblo Tiwa language program coordinator. I started off as a language teacher. I speak my language, the Tiwa. I speak it fluently, and I'm forever grateful to my parents and grandparents for teaching us the language in the home. To try to protect that and save our language is very near and dear to me, because if we don't do that, then we lose our identity of who we are. I wouldn't be able to call myself a Red Willow woman from Taos Pueblo, because if I don't know my language, if I didn't know my culture, and they go together. So it's really important for us to save the language and keep it going. Coming out of our lands and going into the modern world, people don't realize that we have to choose between our ceremonial way of life or to go to work or to go to school. And that's really hard for some of our people to do that. It can be done, but with the help of the outside world, understanding of who we are, that we're not lazy. It's not that we don't want to work. We want to work, but how to obtain that balance of our culture and our traditions and our ceremony, and to preserve it, and yet maintaining a job or going to school. I understand that in today's world, we have to share what we have, and we've always been people that shared our culture, our language. I think I would like for people to be respectful, to use the trail, and to remember and acknowledge the ones that were there before, because they hunted and gathered the food that was available, like piñons or wild berries, things like that. So if they're on those trails, then people need to be mindful and just to have respect and acknowledge the ancestors that were there before them. Our dances, our food, when the colonizers came, if it wasn't for us, they wouldn't have survived. So I think we have to be respectful of that and share our trails in these mountains that are behind me. All over, this is where our ancestors walked, all the trails here. Some of these areas are still sacred to us. So for them to come in and just play their loud music or be disrespectful, throwing their trash, things like that, and not being mindful of the land, it does bother me. We want to be successful in the outside world, but yet we want to hold on to everything that we have here as well.
Yo, anam uwain, pa kakim mo at ay kam kay to kame hoyon mai. When we go into the mountains and your favorite trail that you walk and you saw a little rock laying there really beautiful and you said hello to it and kept going and left it alone, and when you came back to this little rock again, maybe 10 years later, 15 years later, the rock is bigger. The reason the rock is bigger is it has a heartbeat like we do. Everything that we see in our land has a heartbeat. So in my world, I pray every single day, every night. If I go into that outside world, or my children or my people go to the outside world, we pray for them to protect them, to give them strength in the outside world, and to always come back home to our people. So the outside world is a very, very, very challenging world. Well, I grew up with my language. learning from my grandfather, my parents, and my people. So the language is embedded into in our lives as we grow up as children. When you teach a child when they're small, one day when they grow up, they'll remember the teaching that you gave them. Our people, long time ago, traveled all these traditional roads here throughout the country, hunting, trading, and so we have our own trails throughout North America where our people used to travel to and trade, and those trails are still there, still visible. So all these teachings that we do are very precious and sacred because we pass that on. And I was very fortunate, I've been in tribal government 6 times. The tribe called me and asked if I could be the war chief for the Pueblo. And my father said, if you ever get a chance or a position, don't deny it, go ahead and accept it for leadership. Because my father was a great leader. He fought for our people, he fought for our land, and he traveled with the old people to Washington, D.C., fighting for our people. And our people fought for 48,000 acres of land. And these are the trails that we take today to go to our sacred land in Blue Lake. So if it wasn't for this one man and the elders that fought for this land, we wouldn't be going to these sacred places. The 2 worlds we live on, it's the traditional world where we come from, Taos Pueblo. And when you leave that outside boundary to the other world, which is the outside world from our village, challenges come in our lives. We're very lucky people here at Taos Pueblo, very lucky, because our traditional village is still standing. But the Salish people and other native tribes, their sacred places were destroyed. And it's sad when you get to those places, the longhouses or the earth lodges, everything that our people lived in were destroyed in the outside world.
Noyam kalkwinam noya homa. Yudakina tegatavanta awabo e awama. Yudaki ponkuanta. We are now on Taos Pueblo land. This is our ancestral land that my people have lived in since time immemorial. Our homeland was actually a very vast area, but over the years, our homeland has dwindled down to what we have now. That makes our homeland all the more important and precious to our people. So we are very guarded about outsiders coming onto our land without permission. So these lands or these waters are all an integral part of our home here at Taos Pueblo. Our water rights are secured now by an act of Congress that was signed in 2010 by President Obama. The return of Blue Lake was also returned by an act of Congress. What I would like to see of our young Indian people, I hope that as they grow up, go into the future, that they're going to cherish our Taos Pueblo way of life, the lands that we have, the natural and water resources that we have here, that they will always cherish and protect those. Our Indian language that we have, that we older people speak fluently, we hope that they will also learn to speak it as fluently as we do, and that in the future they are going to be preserving and protecting that way of life that our ancestors have lived for a long, long time, that in a way that we still live and enjoy. The biggest challenge that I see is the encroachment of the modern world into our our world, Indian world that we have been living on, which is actually a complex world, but simple in its own way. But with the encroachment of modern technology that has come in this modern generation here, I see that as the biggest challenge, with all the distractions that it has, as well as the innovations, the many attractions that it has for the young people. It takes away from things that they could be doing, things that they could be learning, and I see that as one of the biggest threats to our way of life here. But on the other hand, I think what we need to do is turn it around and use that same technology so we can teach our young people the things that we want them to learn, we would like for them to learn. Over the years, because of the love of my homeland and our people and our people's strong feelings about this land here, I've always did what I could to help protect and preserve our lands. And one particular experience that I have is as a member of the younger generation of Taos Pueblo, I participated in the late 1960s into 1970 in the work to have lands that were taken away by the federal government returned to Taos Pueblo. These are lands known as the Blue Lake lands. There were peaceful relationships as well as hostile relationships. But through all of that, my people never abandoned this place or moved away from this place, or they were never moved away from this place. In regards to our future and our young people and all, spirituality is very important for all of us. In our Taos Pueblo way of life, we have our Indian way of life, and we also have Christianity. These two are intertwined in our way of life here at Taos Pueblo. It is what makes up our spirituality, our way of prayer. And I hope that all of our coming generations will remember that everything that we have comes as a blessing through prayer. So we appreciate that visitors like to come here to see our village, and we invite them to come here to see our village. It is a living place. It is not open all the time, but it is open most of the time for visitation. And we would like to invite people to come and experience the place of Taos Pueblo. And what I will say in conclusion is that although we get very many visitors here to Taos Pueblo, at the end of the day, when the visiting hours are over, the place reverts back to its quiet and mystical place, peaceful place that it's been for hundreds and hundreds of years.
Tahun anam Taiwan kutimmatano malaya yan te Dominawamaya Taosla Meho Yuna to Una Kuil E Habayonam Ina Siampame Yonam Tainam it Alayaki Yonahina na Ipiana E Hohuta Tano Kut Ama Yonam O Anam Ramki a build Amaki Haba Ilopai and Bill Inope and Bill Yonakina Taitoma E Haba Yonahinan Ipiana E Ho Inope Aki Hoyana a Taosla Meho Ba Malaho Kohi Hota Ten Paho at the Nakia Kim Taiwan Paho at the Bayon Tata Takina Koinanta Hoba Pansai named Ipanam Yonam Nan Iwiwa Hoba on Hanama built Ama Kohi Kimahal Amaki Paho at the Boyanak Utim Ten Amala Hoyantea Ta'a. Creator, we give you thanks for bringing us together on this day, for the world to listen to our native voices here from Taos Pueblo. Please bless all the creatures of Mother Earth, all the inhabitants of Mother Earth, all the peoples of Mother Earth, no matter who they are, so that we can understand, love, and respect one another for the generations of our future, our children, so that they may be able to grow up in a world that's a loving place, an understanding place, a world full of Indigenous knowledge, so that they may learn our cultural ways and have respect. We give you thanks for bringing us together on this film for others to see, and we ask you for your blessings and give you thanks. Ta'a, thank you.